My name is Mohajer, and I am running for California State Senate. There it is, okay. I am so grateful for you all being here. I want to thank the Iranian American Democrats of California. Where are you? Cheer. Yay. I want to thank the LBOC Women Rising. Where are you guys at? Nice. And I want to thank the Stonewall Democrats for showing up. These are my communities. These are the people that lifted me up. These are the people I've worked with on the ground. These are the people I want to represent in the legislature, because we've been on the ground doing the work together for years and years to make this a better world for everybody. And I'm very proud to stand with you and very proud to stand on your shoulders. I'm very clear that I stand on the shoulders of a long lineage of LGBTQ people and women who have fought and struggled to advance civil rights in this country, and I'm proud to take up that mantle and take that fight to Sacramento and represent you there. I want to thank Dom Jones, candidate for Congress, who is running for Congress here in Orange County, for coming. And I want to thank Emmy Lou Cohen. She's sitting right here. I don't know if you guys saw my campaign video. It was really splashy and it was really well done. It was done by Emmy Lou, who is a senior at Newport Harbor High School and an aspirant filmmaker, and that is the exact kind of campaign I want to run as I embark on this. I want to run a campaign that is with the community, that brings in young voices, that brings in people that don't normally participate to get involved so that we can come up with solutions together and to represent these communities in the legislature. So thank you, Emmy Lou, for the beautiful video. I want to thank my mom. Mom, come on, put it down. Someone else is doing it. This is my mom, Sarah. She's the star of the campaign video. My mom came here from Iran in the 1970s to give her kids the opportunities that she didn't have. She didn't speak much English and worked a good union job for 25 years in order to put food on the table. And we struggled and sacrificed in this community so that we could make sure to live in to make sure that her kids could live in a community with access to good public schools. And I know that a lot of people, not just immigrant families, but I know that immigrant families understand this experience very well. The struggle and sacrifice that goes into making sure that your kids can go to a good elementary school and go to good high school and go to good college so that they can have a chance at something that was better than the one that they had. And this woman right here is Superwoman. She was mother, she was father, she was the bread earner. She worked very, very hard. And if you want to know why I am a feminist and an activist for women's rights, it's because I want to make sure that this woman's struggle is not in vain, because she raised me and my sister right there, Orchid, hi Orchid. These are the women in my life who raised me. This woman also sat me down in front of the TV as 7 years old to make sure that I watched every State of the Union address every single year, regardless of who was president, because she understood what happens when you watch civil society disintegrate, like in her home country. And she understood the value of public participation, of civic engagement, and she's also kind of a rabble-rouser. She's a little bit of an activist herself, okay? So she taught me everything I needed to know to make sure to get the job done as a state senator. So thanks, Mom. So, you know, we struggled and sacrificed here in this community. That's the truth. I shared a bedroom with her until I was 17 years old. I started working at 12. My first job was a paper route for the Irvine World News every Thursday, throwing papers for the Irvine World News because it was 40 extra bucks a week for our family. And that's the kind of sacrifices we were making. But I went to Alderwood Basics Plus Elementary and Lakeside Middle School. I graduated from University High School. Yay. And when my family couldn't afford to send me to college right away, I went to Irvine Valley College down the road from here. And worked really, really hard. and ended up getting into UC Berkeley, one of the best public universities in the world. And when I think about that trajectory, I see the American dream personified. And I see my mom's sacrifice personified to be able to make sure I could get into the rooms with some of the smartest kids and some of the best legal and educational minds in the world. And that set me up for success. And when I decided I wanted to go to law school, I came right back here to this district and went to Chapman University School of Law. Chapman. Yeah. And I decided I wanted to dedicate my life to public service. And for the past 10 years, I've been working in civil service advocacy. We're investigating allegations of discrimination and sexual harassment in the workplace. And that's where I've been for 10 years. And I've also been a lifelong activist and an organizer. My mama got me started young because I understand that change takes work. And this American democracy, it is an idea that is the best in the world. But it is an idea that we are still striving for. We are still striving for that more perfect union. It's an idea that we have to fight for and constantly advance and constantly push forward. And it only works if people like the LBOC Women Rising and the Stonewall Dens and IABC are willing to do the work on the ground, activating their community and talking about the issues that matter to people. So I've been an activist my whole life, and I'm definitely informed by that worldview. And in 2021, I was elected president of the Stonewall Democratic Club, which is one of the nation's oldest and largest LGBTQ political advocacy groups. And when I ran for that race, people told me I would never win. I ran against an entrenched establishment figure, an incumbent, who lined up the endorsement of every single elected official in the state of California. And I said, I'm gonna do it anyway, because I think change starts at home. And I think that this environment that we're in, it needs to change. It's not representative enough, it's not diverse enough. Our community is bigger than what we are seeing here, and I'm gonna make that change happen. And I won that race the same way I'm gonna run this race. I said, endorse who you're gonna endorse. I get it. There's no vested interest in endorsing against the guy that's in the job right now, because you don't want to piss that guy off. I understand. I went to the community one by one by one by one. I brought in new people into the process who had felt for years that their voice had been disenfranchised, and I said, we're gonna make it different here, but I need you to join the fight. I need you to participate. We can only change these systems if we bring people in to participate in them, not leave them, not blow them up, but come in and participate and change them from the inside out. And I won that race by 6 votes. 6 votes. 6 hard-fought votes, let me tell you. Out of several 600? It was the largest meeting in Stonewall's history, and a 48-year history. And the other thing I noticed about that was that people showed up to try to make sure it didn't happen. Not because they didn't like me or they didn't believe in what I believed, but because these systems exist to insulate and protect who's already in power, at the expense of our values, at the expense of real change. But we did it, and I learned that it's possible when you go into the community. Now, the California State Senate is obviously not a Democratic club. We have a lot more voters to talk to, but I learned a very valuable lesson there. It was the value of going into the community and talking about our values, talking about what we care about. So what do I care about? I'm running for California State Senate to fight for the economic dignity of working class families, small business owners, and teachers right here at home. Yeah. I understand the value of a good public education. I know how much sacrifice goes into making sure your kids can get a good public education. I understand the struggle and sacrifice of working class families who are struggling with rising costs and stagnant wages, still don't have the protections they need, still don't have decent pay standards, still don't have pay equity, gender pay equity. They still don't have the kinds of protections they need. Even in the state of California, we have so much work to do, especially after COVID. The COVID crisis revealed the disparities in our labor workforce and that our workers need more protections. They need pay standards, and by the way, they need paid family leave. California has made some inroads on paid family leave, but we've got to do more. People should not have to go into poverty or lose their jobs because they're sick or because their loved one is sick. They shouldn't have to do it. We need to get this done for the working class families in this district. And that's what economic dignity means to me. It means just a chance for your family to have their shot at the American dream that so many families like mine struggled and sacrificed for. I'm going to fight for that, and I'm going to protect workers' rights, and I'm going to protect small working class families. Small businesses, they're the backbone of American democracy. That is the American dream. People deserve to be able to start their business and maintain it, and a third of small businesses closed during the COVID-19 pandemic. We've got to make sure that we remove the red tape, that we make it easier for people to start their own businesses and maintain their own businesses here in the state of California. And we've got to respond to the aftermath of the COVID-19 crisis and the impact that it's had on people who are trying to get ahead. So I'm going to do that in the state legislature as well. And teachers. Our teachers need a raise. Our teachers are our social workers, there are community counselors, there are educators, they are second parents to us, and right here in Irvine, I know how much I benefited from that good public school education. I think our teachers need to be uplifted, especially right now. So that's what I call economic dignity, and that's what I'm going to fight for. Number 2, I want to make sure that every Californian has access to quality health care and mental health resources, period. Health care is a human right, and people should not have to go into poverty, lose their homes, lose their livelihoods because they got sick, because they needed to get health care. We, as a state, don't do enough for mental health. Not nearly enough. I have good employee-sponsored health insurance. When my dad died in 2021 from COVID, I was struggling. I was in a lot of pain, and I wanted to get counseling. I wanted to go to therapy. And it was really hard, even with good employee-sponsored healthcare, to get mental health resources for me. And I found it, and I had to drive really far, and I thought, this is gonna make this prohibitive for people that really need really urgent care. And as we talk about this rising tide of hate crimes against people of color, LGBTQ people, and anti-Semitism, these mass shootings that happen even in a state with some of the most restrictive gun laws in the country, we've got to start addressing mental health in this state. Yeah. We've got to start putting resources into mental health. And I want to get that done because I'm 4.5 years sober. I'm very proud of it. I know how many hands it took to lift a person up out of crisis and to get him help that he needed. And so I want to make sure that people who are struggling get the care they need. I know that every person in this room, every family in this neighborhood has been touched by drug and alcohol addiction. I know that everyone in this room has a family member, has a coworker, has a friend, has an auntie, has a loved one who's been touched by this. I want to make sure that a part of this healthcare package is about getting drug and alcohol rehabilitation to people, destigmatizing addiction, and making sure people get the care they need, and also making sure that we protect against abuses in this industry because they exist. It is an unregulated industry, and these are people's lives we're talking about, and families are struggling and they are in crisis because they just want to get their loved ones some care. And we're going to make sure we include that as a part of our mental health initiatives moving forward. The third thing I want to fight for in the California State Senate is bold climate change action. I was 8 years old, riding my bike down Westfield Loop to Alderwood Basics Plus Elementary School, and remember my teachers giving us instruction on climate change. I'm now 38. It is 30 years later, And I drive that same stretch of road, and I look around, and I ask, where are the solar panels? Where are the charging stations? Where are the EVs? It hasn't happened, and it's not happening fast enough, and we're not gonna get it done while our elected officials are taking money from the fossil fuels industry. Even in a democratically controlled state legislature, we are not taking bold enough action on climate change, and the time to get this done was 10 years ago or longer. So I'm gonna be a bold advocate for climate change action, and I have pledged to take no money from the fossil fuels industry. I will be the only candidate in this race that has taken that pledge. I'm proud of that, and I want to make sure that we complement what we're seeing happen at the federal level, but I want to be clear, I've done my grieving about the fact that our federal government is gridlocked. We're not going to get the policies out of the federal government that we need on this. It's not going to happen. We've got a divided Congress, we've got this filibuster in the US Senate, it's just not going to happen. The president passed an infrastructure bill and he got some action done on this. It included a tax credit for EVs. I went onto that Biden website. I wanted to buy an electric vehicle. I thought, okay, it's 2023. Let me see what the tax credit is. The list of EVs that are available for people to buy with this tax credit is pretty small. And some of them are over $80,000. That $7,500 tax credit isn't gonna do me any good. I don't know about you. I can't afford an $80,000 EV. The state needs to complement this bill and create more incentives for people to buy electric vehicles. We have taken action on this. There is some movement here in the state. It's not happening fast enough. The thing is, let's say we get all these EVs on the road in the next 5 to 10 years. We have not done enough for the infrastructure for those EVs. There needs to be charging ports in every single parking lot, school, and neighborhood in this district now. We need to be anticipating the changing global clean energy economy right now. We need to be building the infrastructure right now. So I want to get charging ports into every station. I want to incentivize more incentives for solar so that we get solar panels in these districts. And I want to incentivize electrifying our public schools and buildings. 60% of emissions, thank you. 60% of emissions in the United States happens within the purview of the individual homeowner and consumer. 60%. We in California have the 5th biggest economy in the world. We can be a global leader on climate change. And the way we're going to do it is start with our public schools and buildings. Let's electrify them. Let's get solar panels in them. Let's create incentives for people to transition away from gas appliances to electric. We can do this. And I'm proposing that we do it over the lifespan of a gas appliance. So that gas appliance has a 10-year lifespan. I want to create the incentives for people. So when your gas appliance hits that 10-year and it's time for you to go buy a new appliance, we're going to make sure that it's an electric appliance and not a gas one. And we're going to incentivize the purchase of that electric appliance to make sure we're transitioning away. But we're going to put those electric appliances into schools and everything within the purview of the state government right now. We're going to get it done now. And that's going to be a major part of my climate change initiative moving forward. And heat pumps, transitioning from water heaters to heat pumps. Let's create the incentives to get these heat pumps into the consumers, into the homeowners' homes right now. That's what we're going to do together, and that's what we're going to do together while not taking a single dime from the fossil fuels industry. A couple final things. Last September, 22-year-old Mahsa Amini was killed in Iran by the so-called morality police for merely having a few strands of her hair exposed. Her killing has sparked the biggest protests in Iran in a decade. People are calling it a woman-led revolution, where people are in the streets demanding their basic human rights. Right here at home, the Iranian community has been deeply activated. There's a grief that hovers over the Iranian-American experience. It's a grief that I understood from a young age. It's the grief of a people who were disconnected from their home, who watched a civil society disintegrate, who lost a country that, while imperfect, they loved. And that grief is activated right now. And when I looked at the state legislature last year, when all of this started, I realized that we don't have any Iranians in the legislature. If I'm elected, I'll be the only Iranian in the California legislature in either body. In a state with the largest diaspora of Iranians outside of Iran, at a time where Iranians are demanding their basic human rights. I looked at the state legislature and I realized we've got Senator Toni Atkins. She's LGBTQ, she's terming out. Scott Wiener, about to term out. We will have only one LGBTQ senator in the state Senate at the end of this term, at a time where LGBTQ people have an active assault on their rights, not just across the country, not just in red states, right here at home. Down the road from here in Huntington Beach, they just voted to ban the pride flag. That's where we're at. That's where our elected officials are putting their energy. This representation is important. If I'm elected, I'll be one of the youngest people in the California state legislature, which is saying something because I've got a sciatica right now that's killing me. And this is my 20-year high school reunion this year. I'm not exactly a spring chicken. It's time for a new generation of leaders to take the mantle of elected office. If I represent, and I had a conversation with myself because I want to be clear, part of being the first of any of this, the first openly gay Iranian man elected anywhere in the world, part of being the first is a terror. It's a terror of not seeing yourself represented. I don't have a model for having had this done before. I'm scared. I find it deeply scary. No one that looks like me has my identity has ever done this. I'm not asking for people to vote for me because of the history we'll make, which we will. I'm not asking people to vote for me because I represent a diverse intersectional perspective. I think that's why my perspective is needed. I'm asking people to vote for me because of what we can accomplish together if we have the courage to elect a new generation of leaders. I'm going to take the fight for a free Iran to Sacramento. And by the way, the movement for the liberation of oppressed people is intersectional and it is nonpartisan. And when I say it's intersectional, I mean it's relevant to things that are happening right here at home. We can't advocate for women's rights in Iran without also advocating for women's rights here at home. So I'm going to be an unabashed advocate for the rights of women and for the Iranian people, and I'm going to take that fight to Sacramento. And I'm going to do it by building a broad coalition of support. I grew up in a Republican district. This was a Republican area until a few years back. I grew up with Republicans. Where's my Republicans? Gone. There they are. But they're here.
Yeah.
They're here. We might not always see eye to eye, but the Republicans in this district are my family and my friends. They're people I grew up with, that I break bread with, that I love, that I go over for Christmas Eve dinner, and we love each other, and we bat around and we get in knockout, drag out fights, but we love each other, and I love you, and I really appreciate it. I really wanted you guys to come more than anything. I really appreciate and love you, and I'm gonna be your state senator too. And I think a lot of the problem with politics right now is that we have lost the ability to just talk to each other. This is not us versus them. That is a binary I reject. I have my views, I'm gonna advocate for my views, but I'm gonna do it the same way I do at Gail Eskews' dinner table, which is by debating it and let the best ideas rise to the top. But I am not gonna exclude the people that I love from this conversation, even if it's a Democratic +4, +5 area. That's still my constituents, that's my family and friends, and I'm gonna be your advocate too. So we're off to the races. Here we go.